So tell me, you have access to the records, and that's what makes this show different to any other show discussing the subject at the moment, and I know there are many. As a galactic historian, I would like for the audience to hear your take on what it looks like in the records, and what are the potentials, because there are several potentials, nothing's fixed, but what are the main potentials that you're seeing right now, and what does this mean for us? Because I know a lot of people are petrified that the American economy, there's going to be nothing left. We've stated in other countries that this is a very strong possibility, but it can never happen in America. Why?
Let me define something. When I see money, I see it as it has digital paperwork that has English spell work over it, that has esoteric nepotism and dozens of generations of esoteric organizations empowering what money is in an esoteric energetic format. So I don't see money moving. That's what when I look at it through the Akashic expression from the world, I see where the digital money is stored, and I see the flow throughout the world. So I see the dole system that it's operating our slave system. So the money, which we believe is our breath of life, which is from their perspective, from the spell perspective, it doesn't move. So would you say that America would never have it happen? No, it could happen, but only in propaganda.
I see. So basically,
the money never really moves. It's only the routes in which it's exchanged to support itself. All these ports connect to other ports, which are the blood vessels of the system overlaid of Earth, energy exchange. Like Texas is used to recycle energy, and then you have other states like Greece, which is made to create pain energy through the propaganda, or the Darfur genocides, or the hurricanes in the Philippines. Each of those adds to the propaganda of the world of the way energy is exchanged. So when we see money, it is our infinite source energy from all other lifetimes that is waiting for us, that has rules that say it is not that in any way, shape, or form, and somebody else owns it.
So therefore, let me then rephrase the question. After that education, thank you. And it was really relevant, because I do understand when you're reading from that perspective, and that's why I was quite fascinated to see if you could actually see those specific types, because the Akashic record does not recognize fraud, time, rules, understandings, and beliefs. It can just give you what is there.
A stream of information that has slitted reality. So when I see contracts and I see all this stuff, I know that those contracts can't be changed until a court comes in and allows them to change, because there's that much belief energy around the court. So is there going to be a failure in an economy? No. But it'll be used in propaganda all over the world, because that's how they shake you down for your energy.
So what does it look like? We have Greece, and then what are the next countries? Are we looking at Ireland? I know Ireland has been on the radar for quite a while.
Ireland kicked out the Vatican and began some limited prosecution of some bankers, which then led to a mass exodus of the big American bankers from having any owning property over there, and then money began to be switched back to the new people that were going to run Ireland. Yes, it's still in a big state of change, but it's better off than, let's say, Spain or Portugal.
Yeah, so what's that looking like right now? I mean, what is the domino effect with this? Everything's a domino effect.
That's all propaganda that is potential chess moves.
All right.
So if we fall into the potential chess move of a person that hasn't made it yet, are we wasting our energy? That's literally a propaganda trap. So when we have to understand these potentials, let's just say they wanted to change it around and really give us something that would have to make us think. A country like India, which would be completely stable, that is switching over to gold and trying to have
So tell me, you have access to the records, and that's what makes this show different to any other show discussing the subject at the moment, and I know there are many. As a galactic historian, I would like for the audience to hear your take on what it looks like in the records and what are the potentials, because there are several potentials, nothing's fixed, but what are the main potentials that you're seeing right now, and what does this mean for us? Because I know a lot of people are petrified that the American economy, there's going to be nothing left. We've stated in other countries that this is a very strong possibility, but it can never happen in America. Why?
Let me define something. When I see money, I see it as it has digital paperwork that has English spell work over it, that has esoteric nepotism and dozens of generations of esoteric organizations empowering what money is in an esoteric energetic format. So I don't see money moving. That's what when I look at it through the Akashic expression from the world, I see where the digital money is stored, and I see the flow throughout the world. So I see the dole system that it's operating our slave system. So the money, which we believe is our breath of life, which is from their perspective, from the spell perspective, it doesn't move. So when you say that America would never have it happen, no, it could happen, but only in propaganda.
I see. So
Okay,
basically,
the money
people wouldn't
never
have to live on
really
cash then.
moves. It's only the routes in which it's exchanged to support itself. All these ports connect to other ports, which are the blood vessels of the system overlaid of Earth, energy exchange. Like Texas is used to recycle energy, and then you have other states like Greece, which is made to create pain energy through the propaganda, or the Darfur genocides, or the hurricanes in the Philippines. Each of those adds to the propaganda of the world of the way energy is exchanged. So when we see money, it is our infinite source energy from all other lifetimes that is waiting for us, that has rules that say it is not that in any way, shape, or form, and somebody else owns it.
So therefore, let me then rephrase the question.
Okay.
After that education, thank you. And it was really relevant because I do understand when you're reading from that perspective. And that's why I was quite fascinated to see if you could actually see those specific types, because the Akashic record does not recognize fraud, time, rules, understandings, and beliefs. It can just give you what is there.
A stream of information that has solidity reality. So when I see contracts and I see all this stuff, I know that those contracts can't be changed until a court comes in and allows them to change, because there's that much belief energy around the court. So is there going to be a failure in an economy? No. But it'll be used in propaganda all over the world, because that's how they shake you down for your energy.
So what does it look like? We have Greece, and then what are the next countries? Are we looking at Ireland? I know Ireland has been on the radar for quite a while.
Ireland kicked out the Vatican and began some limited prosecution of some bankers, which then led to a mass exodus of the big American bankers from having any owning property over there, and then money began to be switched back to the new people that were going to run Ireland. Yes, it's still in a big state of change, but it's better off than, let's say, Spain or Portugal.
Yeah, so what's that looking like right now? I mean, what is the domino effect with this? I mean, everything's a domino effect.
That's all propaganda that is potential chess moves.
All right.
So if we fall into the potential chess move of a person that hasn't made it yet, are we wasting our energy? That's literally a propaganda trap. So when we have to understand these potentials, let's just say they wanted to change it around and really give us something that would have to make us think. A country like India, which would be completely stable, that is switching over to gold and trying to have diamond chain exchange, that they have their version of a Lehman scandal. Would the Indian government allow the lizard runs to do it? No.
That's a really good question.
They did Nepal. Okay? They're not going to take out another of their own organization. This is where the middlemen factions are now going to stand up for their own factions and hierarchical battle will be done internally. And there's not going to be us humans in the gladiatorial outside watching and betting on it like there was in the past.
Right. So this is all going to be a little bit more, you have to be very aware, and the far sight and the mass oversight as the observer is key here, because they're really going to be pushing this in propaganda, and the key is not to give your energy in that belief system, because you will help them make it manifest.
Make it manifest. Exactly. So when I look at, let's say, some of the other ways energy is exchanged, let's say our creation of electricity is metered through $1 per hour, whatever it is. That is the exchange for energy system too. So our power grids can be something that can be targeted, that can cause great harm in 1 hour of losing of power, so on, or storms, etc. And then when you use weather control to make drought in long-term areas, the inevitable belief of the people to create something that there's no drought there. Therefore, it drives to create systems to steal physical water from other places, thus creating more propaganda they want to sell the Great Lakes and who actually owns the water rights, so on and so forth.
Water rights, really big deal. You'll find people talking more and more about water as they start to instigate and steal more water, because we already have all over the world, and we talked about this in a previous show, water disappearing and what's happening with it. And even where we are here now, we have a drought. I mean, this is Seattle. It's the rainy place. Drought. You see what I mean? And it's pretty hardcore. We've had a lot of people lose homes and fires, and because people really aren't that used to dealing in drought situations around here.
Exactly. So once again, the bigger perspective: water is the exchange for energy. Power is the exchange for energy. When we are on our roadways driving back and forth to our businesses, homes, and recreational events, we are also in exchange of energy. So money has been centralized in that dollar bill or rupee or whatever it is you're using as the exchange point, when in fact the exchange point is many more, that you don't use dollars.
Something totally different.
So the propaganda may affect this thing over here, which does affect the bottom line dollar, because we have to come down to that. In fraud time, you still need the dollar to go on to make the next moment work. Because without it, the system's going to do what? Dump karma on you until you are dead or its slave for 1,000,000 years.
That's so true. And I was looking in the, reading up in Greece, and they were saying that even people's gardens are getting pillaged now.
Yes.
Because there's not enough food.
That's right.
Next caller is 818. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hi. My name is Rayetta Hill.
Can you speak up a little bit? It's hard to hear you.
Rayetta Hill.
Hi, Rayetta. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? I just spoke to you a little while ago.
Oh, yes. How can I help you today?
I was hoping to get a reading about what is going on with the energies and the earthquake in California. I just watched a Chris Thomas video and a Pollock video, and they're just saying this huge event's coming. I noticed that the OP people are out of town. Everyone's just kind of getting out of town, and there's all this warnings about the May 25th Monsanto March, a false flag being called. And I'm in California, and I've seen the Stallion map. I know about the changes. I know Mother Earth she's got to make some changes. I'm trying to be proactive, and
Mother Earth is not going to make any changes that are going to harm her people. And that's unfortunate that people are promoting that concept. We are in a state of consciousness exploration, and we can create our own disasters. And the more people that believe in disasters, the more chance of disasters to happen. To answer your question of what's going on in the energies of that area, it's the healing energy, and it's time for people to come together and put aside dogmas, especially the dogmas about the end of the world. We've been suffering from dogmatic concepts about the end of the world for 2,000 years. Every race that's existed has had their own version, and one of the reasons is we experienced 4 previous destructions in this world. And we as a soul group are literally post-traumatic stressing ourselves. We are experiencing the fear of the 4 previous destructions, and the propaganda is being used against us in our modern day. You know, if you have a soul wound about a total planetary destruction in the past, and someone starts presenting propaganda, you're going to be afraid of it, and you're not knowing why. And since we are co-creating manifesting spirits this lifetime that are going through the change, our consciousness can literally create disasters. You know, for you need to unplug from it all. You need to reconnect to your inner energies. And I'm sensing a tremendous amount of gray energy on your crown chakra. You know, and this gray energy is doubt, quite literally doubt. When you put doubt in your life, you put the fear into yourself.
Okay. Well, it's because there's so many things that are going on, but there's no clear answer, and the government, you know, they're saying tornadoes.
Government will never give you an answer, nor will the media give you an answer. You have to go into yourself, and go into yourself means you have to unplug from the data stream of the media and understand that the doubt that's been projected on you is so that you'll never see the inner truth of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, this thing with the Oklahoma tornado, 2 miles long, the longest one ever, they're saying HAARP might have something to do with that. All these false flag events, that man-made events that are being created, not Mother Earth even, but now we have the cabal that are actually going out and creating things and disasters, and we just saw a video
and they're creating it to make
LA.
They're creating it to make creating it to make people make more disasters.
Why is all those tanks coming this way?
To
LA?
Make people be afraid. To make people be afraid.
Okay.
So, hold on a sec. The big prediction is between May 17th and June 1st, the world's going to end. Well, guess what? There's about 6,000 different truther media guys all promoting that. If not 6,000 of them have ever thought it, would that be in the collective mind of people talking about it?
Right. No, probably not.
Okay. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to go on. Obama's still going to have his tax scandals. June 2nd's going to come on. And it's just going to be another day, just like the 21st of June, just like every other prediction that's come in the last 10 years.
And didn't happen.
And guess what? The entire time that anyone believes it, the day after, they just took 70% of your Kundalini energy from a program that was designed from the very beginning to trap you into a mindset where it makes you open to energy collection entities that literally attack the Kundalini. David Icke's on the other channel with Janice Barcel telling us the same damn thing. They're after your energy, and this was a milking operation.
What do I do? Well, I've had this energy vortex in my belly that just was starting last November on the left side, and now it's on the right side, and it's starting to go away. I've had prayers done and crystals on it, dissipating it little by little, but it seems that there's some energy swirling in my stomach, and it's getting more and more pointy, like feeling.
And that's the milking operation. That you're identifying quite literally the parasitic entities that are targeting you through this false media propaganda that has energy parasites attached to it. And you are consciously aware of them, that they're there, and you're trying to heal them and get them out of your system. They're literally manipulating your dream world right now. And this is common. This is common amongst all of the websites that don't clear out their energies. And in porn websites, it's 1,000 times worse. They literally herd these entities and create nests in different porn sites. And when people go there, guess what? It spreads like a virus.
Well, what do I do to get rid of this? What can I do to heal and get rid of it?
Disconnect. Stop paying attention to it. Go and do a fast. Go and cleanse your colon. Go and reconnect to the sun. Get sunlight on you. Smile again. And get the doubt out of you. Doubt is the key here. By all of this media projecting to you, it's created doubt within your own soul family.
And I also met my twin flame. And at this very moment when I'm I don't know if I'm ascending or if it's like Chris Thomas says, your whole soul is going back into your body. I've heard 2 different stories from the experts on, metaphysics, and I'm not really sure. Are we going? There's no such thing as 5th dimension. We just go into 50 dimensions. It's just our whole soul going through our body. Why am I meeting my twin flame now? Like, what's going on?
you're experiencing your world through the information of others and not from the information of yourself. I'm going to identify your species so you have an understanding. You're Arcturian. You don't ascend the same way as a person that's a Pleiadian, a Najaran, or any of the others. You have your own specific code and process. So when you're taking information from others that doesn't align to your hearts and your soul family, it makes you very confused and creates more doubt. You know, the reason you're functioning with crystals because Arcturians are very big on crystals. But it's not about a single crystal. It's about understanding you function with a group of crystalline entities that make a hive mind. So you should have crystals all over your house, and they should be constantly cleansed. You have to return to your inner heart's message. You have to stop listening to the bullshit on the agencies. Stop listening to fear porn. Make a space between yourself, because quite literally, you're going to ascend, but you're not going to go to your home world. You're going to go to someplace else that traps you. And that's the whole point of this propaganda, is to influence the theme of our consciousness awakening so we don't go back to our original soul families, and they can keep this machine going the way they want, but somewhere else.
Okay, so I'm not going to ascend here on Earth. I'm going to leave?
No, you're not even in the queue to do it yet. You're still in fear. You're still in doubt. It's impossible to ascend with an even single ounce of doubt within you.
Okay, so...
All right, that's our music. We are at the top of the hour. You hold on. We'll be back after the top of the hour.
Okay, thank you.
818-448. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I just have that last question. I'll be really clear, because you were trying to talk and get it out on OP's show, but you were not able to finish. And I was waiting for this answer, and I asked Creative for this answer, and you were answering, and then it got cut off. So I'm trying to get an idea of this big event that is going to set it off for everything, just all the major changes and the rest of the events that will follow thereafter from now until, I guess, January. What is everyone talking about? They're waiting for the big event. It's about to happen. It's about to happen. You know, OP and all this ascension with Mother Earth and the changes. What are they talking about as far as...
I can only comment on what I know. What other people say is what they say. And I'm going to tell you this, there is no event, quite literally, until we make it happen. Until you see people out marching in the same scale and size as the 1960s, we are not free. There is no ascension. And that's what I said on the show. That's what I've been saying for 6 months. And that's what I'll continue to say, because we are creating manifestor beings, and there are beings that are redirecting the consciousness energy to stop destruction. Quite literally, we are beings that are a species, race with amnesia, and they're using that against us because we've suffered destructions in previous lifetimes, and they're trying to create a destruction by using our own energy. We are creating manifestor beings, and we can create our own destruction.
Okay.
My advice for you is, I mean, quite literally, you have psychic parasites in you from the worrying, from the energy, and this is very, very, very common. You need to clear yourself out and understand that as much as you want to be a part of it, right now you're so much a part of it that you're literally becoming a breeding ground for these parasites. And that's what they want people to do, is to be a breeding ground for the parasites. So you pass it on to everyone else.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what I've done, just to warn my family, and absolutely, that's true. But I'm trying to clear myself and I meditate every single day, quiet my mind.
My advice to you is stop watching the YouTube videos. Stop going on Facebook for a week. Can you do that?
Yes, absolutely, I can do that.
Stop for a whole week. Do expelling rituals. Go and get a colon cleanse. Do a fast. Connect to your dream world again, and understand that you got to clear these parasites out of you, quite literally. Okay. And you're going to see them in other people.
Yeah.
I've got 5 other callers waiting. I got to move on to the next caller.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. The next 818, your name and where you're calling from?
Hi, I'm Rihanna. I'm from LA.
Your name is Rihanna?
Rayetta, yes. I've emailed you quite a few times on Skype.
Yeah, could you lower your volume a little bit? You're really, really loud right now.
Oh, okay, sure. Is that better?
Much better, yes. You're blowing me off there.
Sorry. I don't want to blow your ears off.
So how can I help you today?
Well, I would just want to say thank you so much. I spoke to you a couple of days ago. I think I spoke to your dad and then you. I'm trying to get in for a reading, and you gave me a little bit of advice, and I started the colon cleanse, and that pain in my stomach is going away. I'm unplugged from the TV and from the articles, and I feel a lot better, and I wanted a reading because I'm kind of at a crossroad in my life, and I don't know where to go. Every time I've tried to do things in my life, there's always been something to stop it. Any success stops it. Any relationship stops. It's just been a lot of weird things, even a really bad car accident.
That spiritual contracts coming through and keeping you from a high energy state. Just like the last caller, you're in this phase where similar to the last caller, you just finished a new armoring phase, and you found armor that's not prepared for the level of information that's going to be hitting you in 2013. And that's, again, a trickster spirit that came through your life that kept you in low energy, that made sure you were in a karmic resolution phase with parts of your family that are not real soul family. They're soul cousins. The family that you're in right now, half of it is soul family, the other half of it is soul cousins. And because you had no choice, you would have never been born into this world if you didn't make that option to come through the birth canal. You wouldn't have been here this incarnation. You would have missed the boat, quite literally.
Oh. Well,
so for you, it's about...
I
can in just a second. I did a reading on you last week, so this is just kind of an update here. And you have to understand, you need to express your free will. You need to turn off the computer, turn off your wireless devices, and those are things that are tremendously stopping you from reconnecting to your sacred feminine energies. Very similar to some of the elder callers here, it's you expressing your free will, beginning a system of internal prayers that redirect the programming that's these contracts that are acting against you. You know, again, you need to tell your story out loud to your energy bodies so you know it. And when you know your story and it's told out loud, you can begin to eliminate the contracts that are related to that story. From all of the negative situations, you can take away the emotional energy and release it to the universe. And unfortunately, you've finished an armoring phase, and it's going to be until late August that you get your next armoring phase. But between now and August, if you get out and get sunlight, you get water, you get fire, you get earth energy, you balance your elemental energies, you'll be set up so that you can do a new armoring phase. And it's not going to be easy for you for the next month and a half, quite literally. You're going to be bombarded by galactic energies. You're going to be bombarded by social energies, all that are trying to split you up from achieving a high consciousness, high vibration state.
Okay, because I constantly am, everyone in my family, I come from a very strong Muslim family and very, very religious from birth. And my mom, everyone's now spiritual. Everyone now is studying energy and you and I'm the leader in that. I've taught everyone in my extended family what is going on and that the religion wasn't it. And I was the first one to break away. And
now it's time for them to now it's time for them to practice on their own and you to go inside yourself and understand that the next 70 days for you is your time to go inside and figure out what it is that you want to change in your life. And then you can come back into the leadership of that organization with whole new layers of information. But you have to understand, you're being bombarded by psychic energy that's not meant for you right now. You're not in a highest vibration state.
Well,
Your
I
contracts
meditate
are fully active. It's not meditation. It's reconnecting to the elements, getting outside. How long are you on the computer each day?
Well, since you told me about that, I haven't at all. So I haven't.
What about
at
the
all.
last month?
Oh my gosh, like every single morning, like a ritual, every afternoon and every night, like just reading, because I didn't know all the information. Yeah, at least
8 hours.
6 hours.
So it's fair to say that the previous month you spent close to 1,000 hours or 700 hours on the computer.
I would say, yeah, on my phone, just looking at different articles and listening to different.
That's what you need
spiritual
to
things.
stop. That's what you need to stop. The looking at it. The computer time is literally stealing your energy. You have to disconnect from it, period. And until you get into the self-empowered state where you can understand that you can get on the computer and find the information you want, that you're consciously exploring your head, and then turn off the computer, you're at this state that your spiritual contracts are keeping you locked into the computer, because the computer itself has actual made spiritual contracts with you through the internet system. Quite literally, there are technological and spirit contracts that are keeping you locked into staring at that screen.
Okay, and I'm just curious. Another thing is I've been very, very nervous and very, I feel like the protector of everything. I guess maybe because of my sign, I'm a Leo. And I've always been very, very protective and always the one who tries to think and everything through very thoroughly and have common sense and go the extra mile to research it to make sure it's safe. And I had no idea all this time that our food was contaminated, that the air was contaminated, that I didn't know. And then all of a sudden it just popped in my lap and I was like, oh my goodness, we need to change and eat different and eat healthier and, just do some things to have a healthier life. And so now I feel like almost like I don't know what to do. I'm a singer and I've been singing and now I'm like, that's not even, it just seems like I don't know which way to go. I'm at a crossroads and my life is starting to...
I get that. That's what you said at the very beginning here, and I gave you your answer, and the answer is reasserting your free will. And every time you find yourself trying to explain something, you have to realize that explaining energy is taking away from action energy, and that right there is something that's when you began to awaken other people. You took up the positive role of being the conduit for psychic energy through the soul family that you are linked to. You're what's called a soul hub. That means the soul family you're functioning with and the soul cousins and your actual lineage family are using you as a soul hub so that they can connect to their other soul family. Because so many families that people are born in don't have complete soul families, they need to have people that have proper crown chakras that can connect them to the grid of earth and connect them to their soul family in the dream world. So you're like a transfer station for people that function with you to actually connect to your soul family. And you in a low vibration means you can't act as a transfer station. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
And if you increase your vibration and your crown chakra and do extreme work on your crown chakra and your tailbone, you will find yourself in a much higher state and literally be way more enlightened than you are now. You will not only know exactly what to do, but you'll have a beacon inside your third eye that's leading you through synchronicity to the subject matter that completes the healing concepts you're exploring.
Okay. And you're saying I can do all that by just staying out of the media and just getting outside.
You would need to meditate outside. You need to go and find a river and get that moving water energy. You need to go out in a beautiful place of nature and bring a drum or a rattle and begin to dance. You need to have action outdoors. You need to share your energies outdoors.
Well, another thing is that I don't have any idea where I come from or what I am, and everything I've ever tried to do has always gotten stopped. And so my past is, I have no lineage that I know of, so that's why I never got a reading last time. We just kind of jumped in just like now again, like I didn't tell you my first 20 seconds of my morning like everyone else. And I want to know, who am I? Am I someone good or am I something great that I don't know about?
So you don't know if you're a good person?
I think I am, but I'm just saying.
Sorry, dude.
Okay. It's just hard to tell.
Hold on a second. 310, you have to to stop talking in the background. You're disturbing the show here. 310, make sure you keep your silent over there. All right, 818. The answer is you have to figure that out. I actually have very strict and limited rules with you to function right now because you just finished an armor phase. Quite literally, you have a soul family that's protecting you and knowing what you can go through. And me, I'm a person that I won't overload a person, and you're at the state that I could very easily overload you. And you're demanding it right now for a specific reason, because if you get overloaded, you will never be successful at reconnecting to your sacred feminine energies. And you know this. You've got to turn off the wireless devices. People have told you that before. You have to turn off the cell phone. You have to reconnect to your dreaming. You need to be a woman outdoors. You need to be a woman that's dancing the dream like everyone else. And I don't know any other way to communicate that to you, because you are in a very protected state by your soul family right now. They are very, very worried about you, and you have big protectors around you. And they're very specific about helping you, because if you don't do something on your own, August is going to be a nightmare for you. And I mean a nightmare.
Really?
Yep.
So the man that I live with...
It'll be horrible. Absolutely horrible. If you don't take care of yourself now.
Okay. So all I need to do is get outside and meditate more outside and turn off the TV and all that. And does it have anything to do with the man that I live with?
Well, you're going to know that it's intricately applied to that, yes. When you start disconnecting, is he going to be able to disconnect, or is he going to stay connected in the way he is? And you know what he'll do.
Am I meant to spend my life with this person?
Well, only you are going to determine that when you finish the process of empowering, because you're going to determine if he's soul family, if he completes you, if he's ready to heal, if he's on the same path. Do you love him? How much do you love him? And you got to understand at a whole new vibrational level, you're going to be functioning differently. You're going to see the world differently.
Okay. And how will I know that I'm changed and that I'm healthy enough to do everything? Will I just know innately, or?
You're going to know innately.
Okay.
You're going to be a different person, and people are going to tell you you're different.
Okay. And there's no contracts I need to get rid of, or any fine print that I need to get rid of?
All sorts of it. From the beginning, I was telling you that, but your energy walls are up, and you're not processing any of the information I'm trying to help you out with. When I look at you, there's an energetic wall that is literally rejecting any of the information coming at you, because your spiritual contracts are highly active right now, so that you have no new psychic information and have no psychic data to provide your higher consciousness with a way of turning off the autopilot program.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
I would advise you, this will be in archives. You can go to my website and get my archive link. This will be in archives. Or you can go to the Revolution Radio archives or wait for this to be up on YouTube and listen. Listen to the caller before you and listen to the caller after you. Listen to the whole show. All of this message directly applies to you, and there's multiple examples of me telling people how to get rid of spiritual contracts.
Okay, thank you. Are you able to
I have to move on. I have to move on to the next caller, hon. I've got 3 more people waiting, and I only got 20 minutes left in the show.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How does a human being discern whether they're being fooled? And maybe that...
It comes to your heart's awareness and how in line your mind and your heart are.
So is it how I feel about it?
It's not feel. When you experience consciousness through your heart and not through your brain, it's an indescribable separation where there is no separation before. You have separation. We have the separation of worlds. Your heart and your mind are separate until you learn the consciousness techniques to make them one and the same.
So they work together.
In synchronicity.
Synchronicity. So there is the mental aspect of organizing the data, and then there's that vibrational piece where you're feeling, do I have everything in order?
And adjust the data to match it.
Adjust the data. So we call that in my work data massaging.
Yep.
And there's an art form, right?
Yep.
You're trying to distill the complex into the simple.
Correct.
So your heart is doing that intuitively.
Correct.
And your mind is like trying to keep track, but at some point the complexity exceeds the mind's ability.
Correct.
Hence the heart, in fact, is probably the supermind, because it actually can take the infinity and break it down into
Finite pieces that are decipherable and
in terms
digestible.
in terms of a feeling of, is that right?
That's just about right. I mean,
Yeah, just about.
I mean,
But an approximation, you're close.
You're really close. I mean, it's very, very good that you described it that way. I mean, what I have to add to that, the heart itself is where your soul originated from. When you're a fetus, you start out as a heart with a brain inside the heart. There's actually a piece of brain matter inside your heart.
In the heart.
Like the actual heart. Like when you watch a fetus grow, it is a heart with a brain and a beginning spinal column. And then as the heart grows, the skeleton grows out, and the spine grows up and makes a brain. So the brain isn't formed until weeks later, but the heart's there first. There's an actual brain in the heart. So when you reach consciousness exploration and realize that this brain, its energy center, is projected from the heart, everything goes into the ladder of the heart. And therefore, the heart can experience the no time while the brain's still functioning with the data.
In this piece.
Right.
So can you see that?
I can physically see that in streams in front of people.
The next layer. I've spoken about this concept many times, the giveaway. It's when we choose to release that which is negative, when we choose to release that which holds us back and doesn't allow us our full expression. There are times that we give away things to others so they may heal. There are times we give away knowledge and wisdom for free simply because we want to share that knowledge and wisdom. But attached to that knowledge and wisdom is the absolute inner hope that people will use their own personal discernment, their own personal layers of understanding the patterns of life, so they may co-create with it and expand the concept so it takes on the infinite instead of the finite that we're stuck in. You know, some of these concepts are hard for people to understand, but that's all right. We're at the very dawn of a new age, and it is us that are the consciousness explorers of peace that will help define that, so the future generations that come into this world and come into their empowerment, as well as the existing generations, have a framework to work from, have a concept or a theme to work on, have notes to work on. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of incredible videos that reveal the layers and patterns of truth that are out there, from our hidden history to conspiracy to health, and yet it's not accepted because the propaganda is still so in charge. The propaganda machine are the mainstream news agencies, are the magazines, are the pornography and zealots who insist there is only one way through domination and control. We have to give those things away, have to give away the desire, the need, the urge to even listen to them, until finally they have no ratings, until they must divest into other sources to once again gain control over us. And that will be another giveaway and another giveaway. We simply must not accept the illusions that they keep offering us. We must accept the additional abilities that are being offered us in discernment, in understanding, as well as to awaken yourself. It is when we come into that personal power and that awakening shows us all the tools of wisdom we have. The main tool in the toolbox is listening to others. And when others exert force of wisdom, of domination, or control, you can simply say, I do not accept it, and I give it back to you. I give it away to you because I do not need that energy. I have my own self-esteem. I have my own empowerment, and I do not accept a single concept as the only way to go forward. Because when we accept a single concept, we are being led down the primrose path to self-destruction once again. And when we lead ourselves away from that, there will be other leaders that are going vice versa, back and forth, until finally you come into your own empowerment and understand that you have spiritual allies, you have light being allies, as well as beings of the gray. You know, we haven't really talked about those that walk between light and dark, those that have accepted that for this time of change there must be a balance, and that balance is understanding even the forces of light that have been fighting the forces of so long need to take a vacation, because the more you fight evil, the closer you become to it, and that's just the nature of it, unfortunately. That's just the raw nature. The more you fight it, the more you're exposed to it. The more you're exposed to it, the more healing you need from it. The more healing you need from it, the more we need leaders to remind us to stay in power, to not trick ourselves, to not be in opposition, to not let ourselves fall into darkness, domination, control, simply because we have battled it for too long. One of those first ways is you tell your story. Quite literally tell your story to yourself, to that whole concept, so we all can come together. And once we understanding that coming together means tolerance, it means connection to the Earth Mother, to the vehicles of spirituality and religion that allow tolerance and do not allow domination. And once we come into that aspect, we'll be on a layer of knowledge, a layer of wisdom where so many people will just get it. The light bulb in their head will turn on. They'll pay attention to the patterns that have been going on and simply say, no, domination, control, you are done here. Your time is over. It is time for you to leave. It is time for you to go to the great ice worlds of the ages passing, to be forgotten. Just as we are erased with amnesia, soon we will have to forget about them and become to a layer of healing that we can all accept, that we can all move forward in. And that's the shaman's path, life, death, and rebirth, reborning ourselves out of the ashes to allow the future versions of ourselves to exist. So here we are. I keep saying that, here we are. Because each time I reveal a new layer, there's a new pattern, and a new pattern reveals a new layer. So it's an infinite source, an infinite constant, until finally we get to an understanding. It is us that must empower ourselves to empower others. It is us that looks for those that are acting in stealth, in deception. It is us that looks for those that have the passion and fire medicine within inside them to share with the all, and to not share with the few. When we share with the all can have an opportunity to be innocent once again, to recharge their inner child, and be a part of this world with the full creative force that's inside them, instead of a limited creative force.
We've had thousands of societies and civilizations that all they did was watch those stars. And the stars that they watched aren't the same stars we watch today.
Right.
Because reality is perceived through your culture. We're a media-driven culture now. They own our oral traditions.
Right.
Our oral historians were taken away. We still have some now that are out there trying to promote it, but the people that are born into the TV generation, the media generation, that's their oral history.
Right.
And it's not your mother and father as much anymore.
Right.
That's where it has to change. People like me coming out and doing the oral recording of the Akashic record.
Right.
Not in a trance. You can communicate and talk to them. I'm a real person.
They stole the whole world's history.
I know they did.
They destroyed our oral teachers and historians who passed on the special traditions of how to be a special being, to do what it is that I do, to
Yes.
connect into the Akashic record as a grandfather, grandmother of a local clan, tribe, or small nation. And there were hundreds and hundreds of clans that had hundreds and hundreds of record readers.
Yeah.
Because they all did that. And
I
that's
know.
what a lot of what was going on during the Egyptian times, where the 40 years, then the systematic removal of the oral teachers and historians throughout our world, so the industrialized world could step forward. Because the
Yes.
industrial world couldn't step forward as long as the oral historians and teachers are telling us about the infinite world inside.
Yes.
We needed to be disconnected from that for that to happen.
Yes.
And that's what did happen. And
I
there was a
know.
massive betrayal on the spiritual world, where Dreamtime societies were created in the industrial concept, so people would begin to dream into the industrial world as the oral teachers and historians were being murdered here in this world. And the sacred items and artifacts all throughout the world were robbed and pillaged and put into museums that are sacred
Yeah.
geometry that millions of people go and view every year and get their energy harvested on, because their DNA is being activated by seeing all of these objects in a prison.
Yes. Yes.
Okay? Museums are energy prisons.
I know.
Okay?
know.
There'll be a whole new way of honoring our ancestors and their artifacts, and it won't be in these concepts of museums that are trapped in
Definitely.
sacred geometry.
Mm-hmm.
Because our race doesn't know how to create courts of equity, spiritual courts of equity.
And it's been
Because
over,
it's taken away by when our oral traditions were taken away.
and the indigenous tribes were murdered intentionally and replaced with
All the pipe holders too.
and the courts that we presently have.
Because the
Maritime.
pipe was the presence of the court. So when they shared a pipe in court and in council, that pipe was can be psychometry, could be used on it to prove that there was a court with earth, and that would be why the pipe holders were taken. And all the warriors, all the peacemakers, all of them.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the eye.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's the technological eye, or the false eye.
Correct.
That is controlling things, and that's also on the dollar bill.
Correct. The all-seeing eye. That's from the big institution of sacred geometry city, the sacred geometry linguistics, that everything that was a science to limit was created and then instituted in series to step down the consciousness from higher to lower to lower to lower.
And that's when they...
And then the actual pyramid control rooms would be used to step down the actual energy. Propaganda would be brought in, domination would be brought in, that lowers the energy even more, grid lowered again and again and again.
Well, they don't get snow here.
It's great to have you on the program, Andrew. Bartzis, is that how I pronounce your last?
That is correct.
And I was looking at your bio, and it's quite impressive. And how does that lead to a galactic historian? I guess we can get into that. But you're a healer and a psychic reader for nearly 20 years.
That's correct.
Reiki master.
That bio hasn't been updated in a little bit.
Okay.
I've done a lot of material since that bio went up.
All right.
Let's see. I've been doing this for about 20 years. Started when I was 9 years old. I had an experience. I was at a baseball game. It was bottom of the ninth inning, and at the bottom of the ninth inning, tied score. Our team hit a home run, and all of a sudden, everyone cheered, and something came over me, and the information, everyone's past, present, and future lives came inside of my knowingness and my understanding, and it began this long process of understanding that each and every living being is a conscious sentient being inside a DNA skin suit that is technology.
Wow.
And this awareness was my awakening at that young age to what the galactic historian is a person that can identify species through soul family, through origin, through light body DNA, through physical DNA, and track the lines back throughout time, through galaxies and other universes, to show that there are DNA lineages that have been supported for many millions or billions or trillions of years through many different universes, and that when they came through a master experience like Earth, which was part of a system called the Galactic Ascension Machine, where the best of the best came to find the greatest resolve of karma, and they became part of what's called timeline genocides. This is what I learned. This is how I began to experience my life at 9 years old.
Wow.
And as I grew older and older, multiple sets of experience happened to me, both for the positive and for the negative, that kept showing and showing and showing me there was so much more truth than to the lies that we were being told. I remember being taught in my own school that Vietnam was a police action, and I remember arguing with the teacher that call it war. And that teacher says, that's what the books say. Okay?
Yeah. Yep.
That's what the books say. And again, what are the books going to say? Books going to say about 2000, 2008, 2014. A galactic historian is a witness in the neutral perspective, translating the infinite language to the finite language, so we human beings, who are all in our own path to free will, can begin to translate in our own language greater concepts, greater thoughts, greater ways to be free, instead of being limited to this concept that light and dark must always battle.
Right. So this has been going on since you were 9 years old?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it started before that, but it culminated into that experience. I had many experiences when I was young and challenged my parents. In a Greek family, I grew up in a restaurant business, so many experiences of people seeing me doing very paranormal things.
So how did you deal with that as a youngster, being 9, and as a teenager? How did you deal with all this wealth of, information?
Oh, you couldn't tell anyone. I just literally could not tell anyone. Who would you tell?
Right.
I remember being at that young age going, who am I going to tell?
Yeah.
Who am I going to tell? I mean, working in a restaurant, you hear people's stories. Everybody talks. Yeah. And I was groomed to do that in the restaurant business. You just talk to people, and you find their story, and then you realize that they're all in a system of belief And I knew that. I knew what they were believing in was what they were consciously manifesting. And in that manifestation of life force, it had rules behind it, and those rules were a reality that we were living in. And I realized early, like what was going on. Like this is not real. The one of these is a dream. And it began this process from a 9 to about 20, 21, whereas I was searching for more and more of what this meant to this individual lifetime, because I'd come to learn by the time I was 11 that I'd planned 10,000 lifetimes to be here. I'd left a cookie crumble of information, and that time at the baseball stadium was planned. Every one of those people were contracted to be there in that city at that time. And it's not hard to put yourself in a matrix of contracted people being in a city in the future if you understand the frequency of the land.
Yeah.
And that's where I was. I was at a baseball stadium at the edge of Lake Erie, and there's people that are within miles and miles, and you have the water there, the stadium. It was its perfect energetic flare. I know there were other people that experienced other things at that moment. You know, everyone in that stadium experienced something.
Yeah.
I know that. My experience was one of the many thousands, and I made it through because it was very, very difficult to be aware of so many different layers of information and then talk about it publicly versus privately. My choice to come out public was to remind people that we are sovereign free will beings, and sometimes we must stand up to people's belief systems in friendship, in gratitude, in respect, because without that, there is no place to break bread. There is no way to make room for something new. And in a society that's giving us the old recycled ideas over and over again, they've recycled it to the point that they've recycled it and given us GMO. They've given us contracts on our when we're born, your birth certificates, your bonds. For people that are in the law and sovereignty on the law side, your citizenship. It's also part of your soul. They are all interlinked, and to think that our reality is not interlinked is to deny the most basic law of quantum physics, consciousness entanglement.
Yeah. Consciousness entanglement. What is that?
Well, when an observer does a quantum experiment and wants to observe two particles interacting, it is now known that the observer influences the reaction of the quantum particles.
Oh yeah, okay, right. That was some physics conference where they came about that idea. I think in the 20s.
Max Planck in the 1960s and 70s.
Oh, 60s and 70s. Okay.
Consciousness and energy depict the nature of reality,
right.
In which he did the actual experiments and proved that the observer, even if somebody was observing 1 year later, still influenced the results.
Wow.
So he came up with this concept: consciousness and energy depict the nature of reality. Well, literally, our consciousness manifests and decides what we observe, what we see, what we manifest. If a person walks into a casino and walks right up, picks up the dice, rolls perfect sixes, takes his money and walks out, that person has enough confirmation in themselves to consciously manifest that. And in gambling scenarios, we see this all the time. But we also see the other side where many failures happen because it requires so much conscious energy to be able to do that in a reality that has a high layer of resistance.
Yeah.
This is where we come to the understanding of time. What is it?
A man-made construct.
Exactly. You're on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast.
Yes.
So there's 3 hours difference.
Right.
Well, if we just went by the lunar alignment, we would both know what time it is locally. We don't need these complicated systems of time. Yeah. And they're created that way to get people lost.
Right.
So back to discernment, I think in my current life, and I think many others, the media has done a great job of giving the truth, which is their job, but the agendas of the people presenting the truth are not always consistent. So some media is very honest, their intentions very honest, could be co-opted, where other media is very deliberately trying to steer you in one direction. The same in the New Age movement, the same through all the religions, and I think there's probably a bias that said if it's an Eastern religion, it must be obviously better than a Western religion, because Eastern is so old. But trying to navigate that and trying to figure out, so what is truth and how do I reach that state of alignment is a big challenge. Big challenge.
I don't know what to ask you next. It's it's the rabbit hole is getting
Is it a red pill or the blue pill? Why don't you just ask some standard questions? What's going on in history? Like, it doesn't matter what era of history it's in.
Sure. What about the time right now? What's going on right now?
Do you pay attention to propaganda news?
No.
No? Well, what they're chitter-chattering on, what propaganda is talking about is war in Syria, ISIS, ISIS, which is they're trying to insert this more programming into you. As I was saying earlier, we're a species that has generational programming. It has historical programming to it. The victors have written our history for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So how do we know truth? Well, you start in your heart, and you put that bullshit meter on. And everyone's got a different tuning to that bullshit meter, or the tuning to their own truth, or a resonant frequency that says that this is a layer of truth that I can begin to look into my beliefs with. And this is a belief system time where it's the belief system trains are all crashing throughout our historical falseness. And what is belief going to learn? Everyone's right. Because consciousness and energy depict the nature of reality. The quantum entanglement has been proven over and over again. We are a shared reality, but we aren't living in separation. We are living in a unity right now. We just haven't finished this last moment of reverse engineering our paradox, which starts at our history of why we're here now, why this one species that's on this planet with 7,300,000,000 human beings and another 50 billion beings living on this world we haven't met yet. That's what's coming to us. So what's going on now? Propaganda is saying nothing. Propaganda is saying Iran, ISIS. Propaganda is saying banking. Propaganda is saying Nasera. Propaganda is saying volcanoes, destruction. It's saying fear, 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 because it wants you to create fear.
Yeah.
And all those people that are saying not fear, believe in yourself, start a sovereign movement, grow a garden, live in nature, those are the ones that are thriving now. And those are the ones that are going to have the greatest voice because their truth is connected into nature. And it's the nature of truth to be natural and not forced.
That's true.
And so that explains the various metaphors and stories about the various falls and the water, the destruction by water, fire, blah, blah, blah.
And that destruction is post-traumatic stress on your soul.
Oh, yes.
PTSD on your soul. So when they start mass propaganding the destruction of Atlanta, the destruction, the flood, Noah's flood, blah, 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 it's to make you back into that soul fear that you had because you were here during a destruction, so that you would create that destruction.
Right, right. Okay.
But what they can do is propagate propaganda that makes a certain section of people so fearful that they can create a temporary destruction in their area.
Right.
A volcano, an earthquake. Though I am in this state of understanding that no big destructions will happen unless you create it in your local reality because of mass propaganda and fear, carpet bombing that area.
Mm-hmm. So what we might be seeing from now forward, since 2014 is kind of the drop dead date.
Well, this can be extended out 20 years if they want.
Okay.
The quarantine grid is very enforced now. There are vessels in our atmosphere that are taking consciousness and reinvesting it into the earth, slowly raising the energies of earth, like trickle charging a battery.
Okay.
If they raise it too fast, there'll be people on this planet who simply can't exist here when fade out.
Okay.
And they don't want that to happen. They want the graduating classes.
Right.
So the quarantine is well in effect. When I say this can be extended out 20 years, it's all about enough consciousness here to accept the first two stages of the Dreamtime events that we have that lead into the harder parts of consciousness to accept, where you could have an entire city, in a brief second of unity, no time, completely go, what's happening, and ascend.
No and yes. Well, you got to understand, June 2011, we were brought onto a single timeline, and there's going to be a lot of people who have a tough time with this. What it was is there's been time wars that have been going on here for a very long time, and the whole purpose of the time wars is these multidimensional beings are trying to influence the theme of our awakening. So they brought propaganda, Planet X, Nibiru, or any of that. We are creator beings, and if they bring a high amount of propaganda, we will believe it and create that. And the whole point of the awakening is to claim your free will separate of the incarnation grid and allow yourself to understand Earth's original purpose. So the whole walk-in, all of that is understanding that when you take something out and replace it with something, it has to still function with all those spirit contracts that walk-in entity that they came into. And many of these entities are time travelers. And when they unified the timeline into a single stream, all the tangent streams ended. But since so many of us were on multiple timelines and never knew it, when we go to sleep, we dream ourselves into those other timelines. It's like a person who's had an arm cut off and has ghost limb syndrome. And we have to stop ourselves from creating these fake timelines again. And that's where we're at. So the neutral beings that are walk-ins are keeping the timeline a single timeline, so we live long enough to accept that, there's none of these extra timelines.
The timeline travelers, the people that have come here to unify the timeline, that's a very significant thing.
Oh, yeah. Timeline, just to even begin the concept, you have to understand the multidimensional being concept. Because what they do is they have multiple versions of themselves spread out through a linear timeline, and then they brought in technology so different parts of themselves can create tangent timelines, and then they could literally incarnate other parts of themselves in other parts of the timeline, and then bring soul family with them that are sleeper agents. So the whole purpose is to create propaganda that would manifest deep in the future. And the light guys are always trying to counter the timeline movement, cut this other stuff out. So it's like trying to play a multi-dimensional game of chess 200,000 moves ahead of time. And the only way you can do it is by planning your actual soul's lifetime 10,000 or 100,000 lifetimes in advance. And that's what I did. I planned my lifetime since for the last 52 million years so I could be here now.
So this is the game that the Archontic beings enjoy playing, this massively complex interdimensional chess game. That's fun for them?
Yep. I call them the intergalactic mafia because they're trading our DNA so that they can recreate the galactic ascension machine somewhere else. It's always been the prize to get Earth and then to make a bunch of other drama planets and make a galactic ascension machine somewhere else. Because what these beings are doing is literally challenging Prime Creator to say, no, we're the new guys on the block and we are going to be the Prime Creators in this galaxy and we're going to beat you. So there'll be two separate Prime Creators from the galaxy. That's their whole purpose now.
And they're not going to succeed? Is that what you're saying?
They've already failed.
The management. Okay.
They already failed.
Yep.
But the thing is, we have to remove them because they're soul family. It's like when you got a rotten member of your family, you love them, but you can't live with them.
Mm-hmm.
We have to eliminate our contracts with them. And that's what reclaiming your free will during this time of empowerment is about. Anything that inserts fine print must go.
Fascinating concept. So how do you reclaim your free will?
First of all, it requires going inside and healing parts of yourself. And Michael and Peter talk about that frequently. You have to be willing to look at yourself and to identify that there are parts of yourself that no longer apply to the adult you. And you have to realize, well, the type of damage that your innocent inner child did that shaped your life, as well as the good and the bad. And I commonly call this talking to the fire. I'm a fire shaman and a dream interpreter. When I function in the dream world, I'm in the North Pole and the South Pole at the same time. The North Pole is literally where the dream worlds exist, and the South Pole is where the astral world exists, where the new souls that are coming in here to plan their incarnation, they exist in the South Pole, and then they live through us vicariously to experience what the matrix world is like so that they can figure out what soul family they want to be in. Reclaiming your free will is about literally understanding the matrix is trying to define you through propaganda of what type of co-creating manifestor spirit you're going to be, and you must disconnect from that through meditation, through self-healing, through ascended mastery courses, and begin the process of unplugging from this muddy world. until you understand that this world has several levels layered on top of it and layered below it, and that your perception is the key to understanding the matrix as what is the defining propaganda of all these multidimensional beings that takes place between 2011 and 2014.
Now, the propaganda is being perpetuated at ground level in 3D reality by the media machine which drives our thought.
Yep.
Particularly in the Western world. What about the Eastern world, where the Western media is not so prevalent?
Well, it's controlled by a different media source, and it uses their culture against them. Example, in China, they're extremely big on ancestor spirits, but if you watch Chinese TV, they actually degrade the ancestor spirit concept so that people don't adhere to it anymore. And there's a huge following of Christianity in China that was brought there on purpose so that would separate them from their ancestor spirits.
And they do that on all the major media like Facebook and all the different social media sites. And that's all pretty much run by artificial intelligence.
And teams of remote influencers.
Okay, so Google and all the major...
Well, the actual people in Google, no, they're separate. These are the franchises that I spoke about in an earlier episode.
Right.
They have access to the raw data that is collected on us from all those social networking data mining sites.
Oh.
That information is then fed into an artificial intelligence that makes a massive computation and makes a predictive model for each individual and then the whole in total. And the remote influencers look at this data and process the data and then begin to target lineages of people through the internet who have an ability to reach far.
Mm.
So how does a person discern truth when there are just multiple sources, the internet, we're all saying, I'm true, I'm true, I'm true.
Mm-hmm.
That's overwhelming.
It's a smorgasbord.
Yeah, it's a huge buffet.
And everyone thinks they're the only truth.
I've heard that before, the one-way thing.
Okay. That is the first discernment level. Is it one way? The world isn't one way. It's an infinite amount of ways.
So that's the first checklist.
That's
if
the
someone
first
says that I have the truth, you go, okay, obviously you don't. Move on, next.
Mm-hmm. Well, from the galactic historian perspective, I experience that all the time. That's why I speak the way that I do and project the energy that I do, because I know inside that human body you have a set of receptors that are built into your DNA to identify truth from the Akashic record linked to the accursed Akashic mind.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't have the user manual to pay attention to it. And there are people that have figured out parts of the user manual that are light workers, that are healers, that are dream protectors. And I know there's enough out there that they can receive the message and then translate it to a message that's a scale down, which will be passed on. That's why it has to be to the highest energy.
So what you're saying is, even though it is very complex, it's a very complex game, that there are people that have discerned the truth and are disseminating that very truthfully.
And broadcasting it omnidirectional through their field.
Just by being in their presence.
Correct.
And that it may not be one person broadcasting 100% of the truth, but a collection of people together create an overlay that provides that truth that you are getting a sense.
Correct.
And that when you're within a community of people that are in their truth, so to speak, that it creates a vibration that allows you to start hearing or feeling
exactly
and sensing that something feels right.
The event represents us going into a rapidly ascending, going into a spot of less dense space, and the Earth control grid quite literally won't be able to catch up with the rapid change of energy. Our sacred geometry grid planet will rapidly energize, which will give us more unified dream time. Last week I described how the global Dreamtime Society evolves and how we're herded into cities for 6,800 separate local realities. All of those local realities will be severed from the main control system because the main control system is not in full control. And the event will unfold multidimensionally between the 6,800 separate Dreamtime societies.
and each one will experience local dreamtime realities and unified dreamtime realities, like having a dream inside a dream. And this will last for several days. People will wake up in the dream while other people are still living the dream in multiple realities. And then when the event ends, everybody's going to be like, what the hell? That's the mechanics behind it. The local realities propaganda is what's trying to influence the way the outcome of the event is. And this is, again, all about propaganda and the use of the technology to enforce propaganda so that when we go through our awakening through global dream time, we have a theme that they can enforce and predict.
Okay, so they're trying to turn it into a fear event like 3 Days of Darkness.
Yep.
How would it actually play out, do you think, as far as, in that period of time? I presume will everything technological be still functioning as we see it in terms of the media and our technology by which we live, the energy delivery systems, the grid? Are they all going to stay online, or are we actually going to have... Go ahead.
They'll all stay online. Again, this is going to be a dreamtime event. If you're in a dream, is the technology really working in a dream if you're driving a car?
Nope.
Okay? You're projecting it to. And many of the asleep people will still project the technology to work because they're creating their local reality. And we live in sacred geometry cities that have very strong programming to enforce local reality. And they were created that way knowing that the event time would come where we went through this part of space and where, the back end of Earth that's on the lowest part of the consciousness is suddenly going to come to a much more higher energy, less dense part of space. And naturally, the grid of Earth is going to rapidly increase energy, and it's going to raise from a third dimensional to a fourth dimensional energetic planet. And that means forces of domination and control are going to have a very, very hard time existing here because their vibration is going to be so different. It's like going to be having, them being bombarded by sound waves that are very painful to them. Therefore, they need technology that can rapidly lower the vibration of Earth while it's going through this space of less dense and high energy space. Example, CERN's secondary effect is to do that, is to create a shield around Earth so that as it travels through this less dense part of space, they can keep the energy of the Earth grid low.
It sounds like we're basically going to go through a pocket of space that's particularly light.
It's quite large, though. It's really a large space. Like, we were in a very dense part of space for the last 28,000 years, and this next part of space that we're going to go through is like 68,000 years.
Okay, so it's really a very big pocket, and it's a permanent effect you're talking about, not just...
Correct.
So we're actually in the gradated piece of space between those two regions. So
yes, quite literally.
It's the density of the space is lightening down. Now, that lesser density is if the planets are heating up, is it because there's more energy reaching us from the sun simply because there's nothing or there's less matter between us and the sun?
Correct. And the galactic central sun has been bombarding this solar system with consciousness-raising energy from the prime creator.
Okay, so we're getting extra help from the central sun.
Correct.
In this. The effects of this initial burst, permanent, semi-permanent, or simply the psychological effects rolling on? Because it sounds like we're going to get an initial hit that's quite intense.
Yep. It'll be psychological, and the whole purpose is to break the programming.
So this is break
the hypnosis.
Breaking us out of that hypnotic control.
Yep.
And I presume that after that particular point in time, it's really up to us, the collective, to work out what to do next.
Correct.
Hence the propaganda.
Yep.
Spin doctrine.
Yep, and the fact that once we're firmly in this lighter part of space, the DNA codes in people will be activated. This is the DNA activation many of the New Agers talk about it. But it's going to function in a different way. You're literally going to get new parts of your DNA that turn on, that function in this lighter part of the space very differently, and therefore your crown chakra will be much more interactive with the Earth grid
as well as the planetary grid in our solar system. That's commonly called astrology. So people will be much more in tune with the positions of the other planets in our solar system.
Well, they'll just be energetically connected, which is where Michael and Peter come in sharing the means by which you actually use that technology.
Yep.
Indeed. Okay. So I mean, obviously, there's no predicting the exact time of this event. We spoke last week after the show about markers, things that stood out as being indicators that the event was close by. Can you speak about those at all?
Yes. When Earth itself, the sentience of Earth, actually asserts enough of its will through the control system to bring in more of the energies of the galactic central sun, what'll happen is imagine the Earth with a layer of grids over it, and one spark in the North Pole, one spark in the South Pole, and then a bunch of other sparks all over the world, and then all of a sudden one chakra opens up and there's a burst of energy, and then a bunch of other sparks all over the world, and another chakra opens up. This will create a pattern, and all those sparks, even though seemingly chaotic, are ultimately meant to scramble the world grid so that the control systems have to retune themselves, and it could take several days. And then at that point, when the control systems are no longer in effect, Earth can be a part of the less dense part of space, and poof, it's there. All of a sudden, it's not being held back by the control grid and the lack of consciousness here, and these little sparks of light all over the grid confuse the control system enough that the consciousness of Earth will suddenly become part of the new cosine wave of this new place in space as part of the solar system.
Okay, and the little sparks are human consciousness fully activated?
No, not really. They're the actual Earth grid. Let's say you have ley lines that intersect. Mm-hmm. Ley lines can be a couple feet off the ground to a couple miles off the ground. Mm-hmm. These will be the ley line grids that are 2 to 3 miles above the ground.
Okay, so they'll really go into a high energy mode, will they?
Right, and you will see the ley lines during that point in time.
Okay, so at ground level and in the sky?
Correct. Well, you'll see them in the sky first. The ground level won't go until we've spent about a full month into this lighter spot of space.
So you start to see them as like a spider-like grid in the sky?
Correct.
That'll be interesting. That'll be very interesting. Okay, and what about sociologically? What sort of markers will we see in terms of what's happening in our society?
Well, as soon as people get the rest of their lighter density DNA activated, much more psychic talents will be available. People will just inherently recognize the TV as programming and turn it off, or begin to complain. Because there'll be asleep people that are awake and don't really know they're awake. And it'll be many weeks before they realize that they're awake. And that's the social change. The awake people who suddenly become even more awake become hypersensitive to technology and the unshielded broadcasting, and are just going to filter themselves into natural Earth energy places. And I call this the homing beacon, because all of us are getting ready for a migration to leave this world, to stay on this world, or for the new migration to come in. I describe it like ducks that go south for the winter. Mm-hmm. People are just going to be flocking to energetic places.
That's fascinating. And the effects, on things like the financial system, I presume that we'll start to become extremely unhappy with the financial system to the point of taking action.
Yes, people recognize that it's a house of cards, a casino with people in control of the government and the organizations that gets nothing. Here's another example. In August, all of the statute of limitations on the 2008 banking scandal come to an end here. Quite literally. That means no one can be arrested. As of right now, not a single banker has ever been charged or taken to jail for anything that happened in 2008.
Yeah, well, that's obviously not satisfactory. So I presume you'll see a lot of resistance to the financial system, people on the streets, etc.
Right.
Anything else?
A cooperative of uncooperative people.
I like that. That's a good term. Anything else that stands out as being worth mentioning to look out for? I guess yeah, go ahead. Is this going to be?
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
The impression that a lot of us have is that the event is kind of a thing that just arrives one day, but you're describing more of something that kind of builds up to a peak.
Well, it all happens in the dream time where you don't know if you're awake or asleep, and that happens on a global level. So imagine everybody on a global level all dreaming 62 days that in your dream, but when you wake up from the dream world, only 6 hours have passed. But again, there will be people that are awake that experience the event awake but are still in a dream. It's like daydreaming, you know. You ever daydreamed and all of a sudden you lose an hour?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Same thing.
It's going to be pretty weird in some ways by the sound of it.
Yep.
Quite strange. Okay. Social change, earth changes. Any particular aspects of physical events on Earth during this period of time? Obviously, if we're shifted energetics, it's going to affect the environment. There's been a lot of fear porn around, you know, massive earthquakes, etc. Just fear porn, or is there actually going to be some Earth changes?
There is going to be no significant Earth changes that cause massive amounts of die-off. If it is, it's because your local reality believed the propaganda and manifested it.
Okay. Things like, you know, coastal flooding is something that's being put forward as being, you know, imminent by certain sources of information. That's just a local reality? That's just a manipulation?
It's a manipulation that's trying to get people to believe propaganda and spread it globally so that multiple local realities have enough empowered people in them empowering that negative concept.
So this is a case of dumping information into the consciousness in local areas to actually force those people to manifest the reality that's being foisted upon them.
That's correct.
It's a trick.
It's a trick.
And I presume at some point in this process, humanity begins to learn that it's actually projecting this reality.
It is projecting. The propaganda is the mouthpiece of projection.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this has been a predictive model in the timeline for 52 million years. They're looking at the DNA as a predictive model. They're looking at the consciousness as a predictive model based off of a lower level, you know, we'll use the word voltage. You know, Earth is meant to be a super high voltage planet, but we're running on like 7 volts right now. And we're going to be going into a part of space that functions on 30 volts. And there needs to be technology that limits people from functioning at 30 volts.
Now, once humanity realizes that it can actually, you know, manifest its own reality, do you see there being a certain amount of confusion around that period of time?
Well, yeah, because we're not going to be right now. We're as a global consciousness, we create a global concept. We create this global concept. We do. The sun goes down, the sun goes up. You know, people go to work. They do all those things, and we create that reality. And we've been creating that reality since the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
When the event comes in, there's going to be multiple sub-realities within that overall reality. And that is representative of the fact that they herded us into sacred geometry cities that are meant to be massive dream catchers. So that was on purpose because they knew what the event would do, and they wanted to separate us into multiple realities so that they can bombard one sub-reality with propaganda and satellitic energy so that it would spread to other local realities.
What sort of excuse me, what sort of goal do you think they have in mind for? I mean, if they get control of the situation on the other side, which I actually don't think they will, but what do you think their objective is? You know, basically to completely turn us into a slave society, or just a different version of this one?
No, this is the slick part.
Mm-hmm.
They actually want us to raise vibration but they want to change the theme of our total free will. They want us to have only 50% of our free will. That means they have to invest less into us to control, and then suddenly Earth itself, the species here, can't complete its migration pattern. They can bring more souls into Earth, increase its actual people, and then bring space-based technologies where they can go out and start conquering other planets.
Aha. So the game is to create a larger scale war machine.
Yep.
Well, I'm not having any of that.
Me neither.
Any listeners out there that want to go down that path? I don't think so. And that's really a very important point. So their overall objective here is to basically create a completely controlled planet of quite advanced beings who are quite willing to jump on pieces of technology and go out and spread this problem elsewhere.
Correct.
And
then create galactic ascension machine style solar systems in other places and spread drama. And as I said, their goal is to become the new creators of this galaxy. So you have a new prime creator in a prime creation already.
Okay, it's a takeover.
Yep.
Quite simply a takeover. Well, I'm not having any of that. I'm far more interested in the model that we spoke of right at the start, where this world is turned into a world of healers and teachers that go out amongst the stars and spread peace.
That's what I'm here for. Spread peace, break bread, come together in communion and union.
It seems like if one were to predict what was coming, and of course we can't, but if one were to try, it seems like there could be a lot of comical events that will be exposed through the media, and then also there will
The
be...
media will be a big joke.
Yeah. How do you see that unraveling?
Let me find the words for it.
Okay.
There will come a time where there'll be enough people marching that members of Congress will not be in the country. At that point, the corporate offices will have people camped out in front of them, and those people will leave the country. And the news media on the local level will report it, and the national level won't. And that will be the main media issue, the local units that are saying, no, I'm going to give you the middle finger, I'm going to report the truth. And then the national units using their corporate powers to start firing people. Okay, so there will be independent news agencies that start their own internet news agency for free to get the truth out. Bob Smith of Channel 7 News, who's now on Channel Z News on YouTube, continuing his show with the same production staff that said, no, we're not going to be a part of this lie.
And that's going to be an interesting process, and that will definitely hit the news. So the news will
be a multi-dimensional game of whack-a-mole. This one comes up, no whack. This one comes up, whack. This one comes up, whack. 15 come up, oh, where do I hit first?
Sounds like fun. So we will see in short order, within my lifetime, and for sure, the collapse of the control of the media.
Correct.
The controls by the church.
The church will be spectacular.
Oh, yes.
They hold a lot of cards. And think of it as a game of poker.
Okay.
You got to show your... Ooh, we got a friendly moth coming through.
Hello.
It's a multi-dimensional moth.
Right. It's blessing us. Healing.
Think of it a game of 7-card Texas Hold'em poker. And it's everyone's got to show their hands. Or there's 1,000 people at the table. The first guy to show his hands shows tens and jacks.
Okay.
Pretty good. So the 999 other people out there that are there have to show their cards too and beat that.
Oh my God. And then once the first domino falls, it'll be like V for Vendetta. So it doesn't require a college degree. It doesn't require someone to be highly intelligent in the sense of high IQ.
Nope.
It just requires someone using common sense in terms of when a situation occurs, are they aware of how they feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
And are they aware of what they chose to do?
Mm-hmm.
Were they aware of the consequence? And then are they willing to repeat that consequence on a regular basis or choose a different action if that consequence gives them a negative outcome.
Exactly.
And so it's kind of like Groundhog Day.
Yep.
And after a while, you're like, I'd really like to date that girl, and I keep pissing her off, and so I don't want to stop. I want to stop stepping into that puddle, and so you go take a little bit off to that. Okay. So discernment is not complicated. It just requires a practice, a daily practice.
Slowing information down. The world moves really fast.
Right.
Once you slow it down, that's another layer to discernment. Is knowing when to slow it down, because there's things hidden in it of misunderstanding. They can easily be misunderstood because the data is moving so fast.
And so as you're running, if you think that you have to go fast, then you're actually missing, which is right here, you've gone past it. And so actually the people that speak slowly, I found, sometimes are the most aware. And the people who speak fast, and myself included, sometimes you overshoot.
Correct.
And so actually it's not a game of intellect, it's a game of awareness.
Absolutely. It's always awareness and consciousness.
Yeah.
It always stems down to that for the value in this universe.
So every human being has that ability.
Absolutely.
To discern and become conscious.
And sovereign.
And sovereign. Mm-hmm. No matter where they are in the scheme, whether you're penniless or you're homeless,
exactly.
or you're a very smart person in a very important job, or you're a politician, we all have the same path.
Correct.
And there's nothing easier or harder except for dealing with the perceived fear that if I really look at myself and who I am and what I've done, whether I'm able to accept that, and then the commitment, which is your choice, right? Mm-hmm. Whether you want to go forward, to act on and do something different.
Exactly.
And free will says you can do the same thing you want in infinity until you're ready to do something different. And that's okay.
And that's okay too.
And you can steal as often as you want, and you can do those things, but there'll be a consequence. But ultimately when you're done and you realize that the wealth is within inside, then you can choose something different and you've lost nothing. But gained everything. Gained everything, exactly. So no one's lost anything. People in prison, people have done bad things. The moment of truth is when you realize, okay, that wasn't such a good idea, but I learned so much.
Retrospection is one of the greatest human tools.
So no matter my choices, I become wealthy.
Absolutely.
Just choose.
And I really deplore the people that focus on fear porn. But there's a difference between fear porn and being a responsible individual.
Right.
Now, in the old days, all right, being a responsible individual for your family and your community was to always make sure that in the winter months, remember we didn't have fridges and all of that, we always made sure that in the winter months there was enough food. We always made sure in the summer that we toiled and our land. And now, in this day and age, what does a responsible human look like? Well, it looks like someone who understands that there is a failure in the system, that the system that was created to help and provide us to have this kind of lifestyle is not conducive to what we need, is actually using it to control us, and then at some time point it will enact some form of control, be it a power outage, be it something happening, with the finances. Either way, it's always wise. It's always wise to have anything that you can have, like growing in your own little house, even if you're in an apartment, cash.
It's the red pill poppers.
Yes.
Who suddenly find out that the red pill still has a blue pill side to it. For those of you that aren't getting it, that's a Matrix reference. When he took the red pill and he's on the other side, there's no going back. Unfortunately, a tornado can force this soul back into fraud time because we have so many tacit agreements through that dollar, through the exchange of energy, through the shared realities, through the shared history, that guess what? Your no time moment gets pulled over. And this is where many of the love and lighters who aren't giving enough awareness to themselves when a tornado hits or this hits and this hits, and they find themselves, where is the love and the light?
Yeah, remember what happened in New York.
Right. Or New Jersey.
Exactly. Everywhere. And so this isn't...
and then the evil contractors came in and ripped everyone off, and years later they're still not in their house.
So this isn't fear porn and this isn't doom and gloom, but it's just called being responsible for yourself, so that you don't have to then rely on others to feed you. For example, we're all young enough, we know that we can store a little bit of water. And it's also just the way the world is at this moment of now. Now, if you want to carry on your streams and your growth and everything else, the worst thing that can happen is your body going through the imprint of trauma, or you even having that fear that if something did come, it will take you totally off your path and your track. Have that all there for a week or 2 weeks, just so you know. And then when something does happen, you'll be able to continue your stream, but also most importantly, you will be adding to the community and not subtracting from it because you just lived off your Pizza Hut every day and didn't have even anything in your fridge. You became the true urban slave.
Yeah.
With nothing in your fridge except maybe a beer or a piece of champagne or something, depending on what your lifestyle is.
And then there are the others that, they have the family and they have, 15, 20 days of food because they've got, 3 kids.
That's right.
That's a lot of food that goes out every day.
I tell you, and as soon as when they start growing and you've got a big bunch of them, going shopping for a normal one person would be for them for about 2 weeks because they're eating, they need to eat.
That's right. So this process of the 1 second ad, and we're going to come back to that and relate that to what's going on in this whole Greek debt and the whole concepts that we've gotten here. They've just added 1 second of propaganda. That's such a variable because the system is now trying to be unpredictable to us.
Yes.
I talk about being unpredictable and how well it screws up the system when you use contract revocations to prevent those moments where it can see what you're going to do so you can create something mystical in your own thing that isn't valued by the dollar first. That's got all the other exchanges and energies behind it that make it real for you, that make it valuable for you, that make it experiential for you. Now we must apply the conscious sacred to this. The Greek propaganda is just a sequel.
Yes.
But know that there's another sequel, another sequel, and another sequel. You still must listen to it slightly, because it is within the nuances and details of propaganda do you understand the strategy of what the propaganda is trying to create through its own unpredictable. It has an algorithm that keeps it stable, but all those are finite. It's just a matter of us figuring out what redo comes up next. What is it? Rambo Part 29 out of Iceland going to come back and fix the world? No. Or maybe Texas is going to secede and they're going to throw that up on the propaganda news and fire people up. Or it might just be another hurricane, or it might just be any of the other recycled propaganda tactics that look for instant gratification for your wisdom.
So, and here's something that, people who are obviously familiar with chess, this is nothing new. But sometimes when you're endeavoring to figure out their strategy, looking all around the world from afar and then just placing what's currently happening and then those effects, and then trying to figure out if they're doing that and these are the effects, what are they actually doing on the other side? And seeing what's happening there, because after a while you'll start to see a sequence of events, because remember, this is a system. It's not original, it's not authentic, it's not even connected to source, okay? So we as humans can think totally out of the rules, whereas this system, even though it has an incredible amount of algorithms, the algorithm is finite.
There you go.
We are infinite. And this is us learning how to deal with the chess, our chess opposite, and exactly what they're doing, so that we then can move in the way that is best known as be like water, as Bruce Lee always says. We can then move accordingly so that we're still staying fully connected with source, but still fully aware of what is happening. This is key. A lot of people become hermits and they're not aware of what's going on in the world. You're not helping if you're like that. We need to be able to expand and then emanate to all aspects of the globe. We are global beings.
Okay. So the next layer of propaganda, it has volume control.
Yes.
That's called print and digital media.
Yes.
And it's a linguistical programming masterpiece out there. Okay, and that linguistic masterpiece of programming that is the way we read is the proverbial backwards bike suddenly being forced upon someone to unlearn an old way and learn a new way, and it makes it almost impossible for them to go back if they've put enough belief energy into that new system. That is, the fear porn is the evil backwards bike being used against you in unawareness.
And that was also so interesting because when we're talking about the backwards bike and we're talking about the propaganda, we had this one perspective where we were talking about the neuro-linguistic programming and how they had this one thing and all they talked about was how the troops reacted, but not actually what actually happened and the results and the events and the causes, but they just talked about the reaction of the troops, and they kept on pushing it, and there's another clue just to watch, and you've got some prime examples of the effects of that, haven't you?
Endless.
So there we have it, folks. No need to be depressed, no need to regress. Let's just get out there, be infinite, and show them what it takes.
You have just been granted 1 second by fraud time leaders in the Lizard organization to do whatever you want. It is their mistake for doing that.
Indeed.
Time for you to seize apex of your own hierarchical order and say, I'm going to make 1 trillion extra no-time seconds and seconds with it.
As they say, time is money, money is time, so take more of their money then if you
can.
Exactly.
You have these opportunities of perspective to make that 1 second your infinite, co-creative, changing internal moment that makes you go now.
What would happen if all of a sudden everybody used that second and awoke because that wasn't planned?
It would be ascension. It'd be waking up. It'd be like, oh, the fireworks in the sky.
Yes, and then what would happen?
No RV would need to happen. We'd need to change it. We'd all look at money and go, why would we use this garbage?
And then exactly, what would happen then to the financial system for which they created the second?
It wouldn't fall. It would just go, I'm obsolete. Like a TRS-80 from the 1980s.
Or like the dinar.
Or the dinar. It is obsolete like the floppy disk.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And you know, with the RV guys, didn't they make another push because it's just been
4th of July surprise, yes.
Yeah.
Don't believe it. Don't believe the hype. It's just a sequel.
Exactly.
Don't believe the guys writing in all capital letters.
So enjoy your second, everybody. We love you. Namaste.
Namaste.